we got you on because you've had some extraordinary comments recently. You've said, I'm probably more reform than most reform candidates, to be honest. Why did you say that, Lia?
Because I think it's true. I'm what I would call a traditional conservative, a traditional northern conservative. And I believe that quite often systems across the country don't work for people. And I see it as my job, because majority of my constituents feel the same way, to make sure I'm pushing the government in the direction that we want to see the country going.
But you're not tempted to join Lee Anderson over as a Reform MP?
No, I'm not. I respect what Lee decided to do, but I think Reform are a very, very good pressure group, but I don't think that they have the ability to be a serious contender for running the country. But that doesn't mean to say that I don't agree with some of the things that they say. I don't agree with all of them. But, you know, in order to influence government, influence what changes in the country, you've got to be, you know, within the system, to fight from within the system and not just from without the system. So I'm a conservative, always have been.
Now, it was Grant Shapps, actually, who we spoke to a little bit earlier in the show, who reportedly was telling prospective candidates and those looking to win their seat again, or at least campaign their seat again, to fight on their personality as an individual rather than under the Tory banner. So basically, don't be so obvious about the fact you're a Tory. Go on your personality. Is that what you're planning to do? You went a bit further and said you were Reform.
Well, I'm not sure I've got much hope then, have I really? I know I'm just, you know, an ordinary working class northern person. I say it as I see it. I think most people in places like Grimsby do. I've always felt when I watch politicians on TV, they never answered a question directly. And that's infuriating. You're there to do a job. You're there to give people confidence you're working for them and representing them properly. So that's what I try to do. I try to be honest, and I'm tough. I'm tough all the way up to cabinet members and the Prime Minister if it needs to be.
So you're not bothered by perhaps how Rishi Sunak might view this? He would have seen this headline and thought, oh, God, surely not.
He'll have said, oh, no, Lia again. You know, I work closely with the Prime Minister's team. I don't pull any punches. You know, I'm lucky enough, because obviously I was Parliamentary Private Secretary to Boris Johnson, that I do get access to senior politicians like the Prime Minister, and have honest conversations. I've had honest conversations with him about immigration, about what people in Grimsby feel. You know, that's my job, to represent the constituency.
And what's your sense of what the top priority is for your constituents at the moment? You say you're more Reform than Reform. So is it immigration? I mean, that's what Reform have been talking about the most, I would say.
Immigration is one of them. But obviously it's cost of living, it's crime. You know, but what people have got to understand is that it works both ways. If we're going to reduce immigration in the way that we want to, and I spoke with the Prime Minister's team and the immigration ministers, you know, last autumn, and said, you've got to halve at least this year, and we want to see it continue with regard to legal migration. But on the flip side, that means people who are at home and perhaps deciding not to study more, or want to stay at home and think about claiming benefits. Actually, we need to mobilise the British population to get good skills and to get those jobs that are out there. There are 900,000 vacancies out there. We shouldn't have anybody who's not working. And I'm a great advocate of encouraging people who've had long-term disabilities to get back into work. I think it's great for people to get onto the career ladder. It's really good for social skills. It's really good for aspiring.
I mean, I'm always struck by the statistics on how many young people are out of work and on out of work benefits, particularly for mental health. It is not a great state of affairs. I know the government does want to do something about that and is trying to get people back into work. Just lastly, Chris Heaton-Harris stepping down at the next election. I think that makes him the 64th, 65th Conservative MP to say that they won't run again. What does that say about Rishi Sunak's leadership?
Well, I think when you look at any general election, there are lots of people that do stand down. And when you look at the majority of people that are looking to stand down, They've been members of Parliament for a very long time. It's a tough job. You get, a lot of public exposure. It's very demanding. And I think people just make the choice that actually perhaps it's time to do something different. So I don't think we should be reading too much into it, really.
And Lia, just very lastly, I did say lastly before, but very lastly, Nadhim Zahawi, former Chancellor, in the press saying it was the wrong decision to oust Boris Johnson. Would you agree, considering where the Conservatives now are in the polls?
I've always been a supporter of Boris. I think actually it was the Parliamentary Party who really should have thought long and hard about what they did. I mean, Nadhim at the time, did talk to Boris, I understand, and encouraged him to resign. So I'm not quite sure where that is coming from. He knows Boris very well. But the reality is that the party should have thought about the country, what the people wanted in the country, and spend as little time as possible gazing at their navels to decide what they want to do. We're here to do a job for our constituents, not to grow our careers. That isn't what I went into politics for. I wanted to do things for Grimsby.